My son looked me in the eye and said, "We want privacy. My girlfriend doesn't want you here." While my house sat ruined by the storm, my chest ached, but I kept my head high, refusing to let tears be my answer. Instead, I picked up the phone and made a call no one expected. That single call was just the beginning of everything that followed. The basement steps disappeared beneath a rising tide of brown water, swallowing each stair until the last one vanished. I smelled bleach mixed with mud, and the hiss of the boiler cut through the storm like a warning. My sump pump rattled and failed, the motor choking against a flood it couldn't fight. I stood there for a long breath, frozen, while sirens echoed down the avenue. A patrol car crawled by, a loudspeaker urging us to check our neighbors, to call 311 if we needed shelter. I dialed, listened to hold music, then a flat recording. Shelter's full. Try again in 2 hours. The building super leaned in the doorway, rain dripping from his cap. "Yeah, everybody's flooded. Miss Klein, FEMA will come." His shrug was heavy with defeat. I tightened my jaw, grabbed a plastic tote, and began saving what I could. IDs, insurance papers, a sealed envelope from my safe, Harold's old church van, and 2 photographs not yet ruined at the back door. With rain finally thinning, I spoke aloud to steady myself. "Odessa, you don't rattle easy. Move with purpose." Upstairs, I laid out what mattered most. Dry socks, my blood pressure pills, a sweater, and a small flashlight. I zipped the envelope into my inside pocket, wrapped Harold's fan in a towel, and whispered, "Stay with me." I tried calling neighbors. One line rang out. Another answered. Voice tight. "We've got grandkids tonight. Honey, no space." "I'm sorry." I texted Luther. "House flooded. I'm okay. Can I come by?" The message showed delivered. No reply. I stared at it a moment, then stuffed my charger into the bag. My old sedan waited outside, half a tank left, a towel on the seat to keep me dry. I patted the steering wheel. "Don't stall today." I locked the apartment, left the super a note with my number, and stepped into streets lined with floating trash bags that looked like black balloons drifting away from the curb. The drive toward Newark felt longer than miles. Wipers beat a steady rhythm as I crossed the RFK Bridge, merged onto the BQE, then inched toward the Pulaski Skyway. Hazard lights blinked ahead like a slow parade of distress. On the radio, a caller pleaded for her mother stranded in a basement. I gripped the wheel tighter, recalling Luther at 10 years old. Mud streaked across my kitchen floor after a game of stickball. I let him eat pie before dinner that day, breaking my own rules because his grin was wider than the plate. My phone buzzed. A text from him. "You okay?" Relief washed through me. I answered, "On my way to you." No dots bubbled back. A tow truck passed carrying 3 drowned cars. I rubbed my hands together and murmured, "This is temporary. Family first." The city lights dimmed as the suburbs opened. Lawns too green after the brown water I left behind. When I finally pulled into his cul-de-sac, porch lights glowed against damp siding. Wind chimes swaying slow, I parked, smoothed my sleeves, tucked the envelope deeper, and lifted my chin. "Mama's here," I told myself. Ringing the bell, the blue glow of the camera watched me. Footsteps approached, paused. A shadow crossed the frosted glass. Then the door cracked open, just a sliver, and Luther stood there, clean, dry, surprised. He didn't step forward, didn't hug me. His eyes searched the street before they met mine. "You made it," he said. "I did," I answered, my tote dripping on his welcome mat. He glanced over his shoulder, voice lowered. "Can you give me a minute?" He stepped back, and the door lingered half open, neither welcome nor shut. Luther returned to the door, easing it open just a little wider than before. His eyes flicked down to the soaked mat where my tote rested, then up to the blue ring of the doorbell camera. He shifted his shoulders, as if bracing for something. "You okay, Ma?" he asked, soft but guarded, his voice already carrying the weight of a choice he hadn't spoken yet. I steadied myself and answered, plain. "The house has gone under? I brought dry clothes, my pills, that's all. One night on your couch will be enough. The smell drifting from inside caught me. Lemon cleaner, warm vents, the kind of comfort you don't notice until your own walls are damp and sour. Then another voice slipped out of the living room, sharp and measured, a woman's tone that cut across the hum of the porch light. I hadn't seen her yet, but the syllables already told me she wasn't glad I was standing there. I stepped half inside, out of habit, wiping my shoes. Luther raised a hand, not quite barring me, not quite welcoming me. She appeared in the hallway then. Milas Corvin, white sweater, spotless, hair tucked back, phone in her palm like a shield. She didn't smile. She measured. Luther, remember what we talked about? Privacy. Then to me. Cool and even. Miss Klein, the timing is complicated. My son echoed her words, softer, but word for word. We need privacy right now. Repetition from his lips felt borrowed, not born. I held my chin steady. Privacy happens in a family, too. Baby, it's called a door you close at night. A couch works just fine. She slid in another line. Crisp as a condo board rule. House policy, no overnight guests. Her living room gleamed behind her. Sofa white as fresh snow. Coasters lined like soldiers. No family photos, only prints from a catalog. A space styled, not lived. Luther motioned me toward the kitchen for just a minute. Milas trailed us, placing a folded paper towel on the counter without looking at me. She picked up a spray and misted the air, 2 quick bursts of citrus that drew a line I wasn't meant to cross. We just cleaned, she said. Not to anyone in particular, I replied steady. Water leaves its own smell when it takes your house, but it leaves fast. Character doesn't. She turned to logistics. There are shelters, extended stay near the mall, safer, more independence. Luther's eyes dropped to the towel catching drips from my tote. He didn't move to change it. That silence said plenty. I scanned the counters, the exits, their stances. Years ago. I taught Luther to read a room before his college interview. Now I was reading him in his own kitchen. I drew the line clear. One night, I'll take my pills, shower, and be gone in the morning making calls. He shuffled, voice thin. Ma, you know how it is. Routines, early work calls. His eyes slid toward her, and I saw the invisible hand pressing him. Routines bend for emergencies. I told them. That's what keeps us human. She slipped in the word that sounded more clinical than caring. Boundaries keep relationships healthy, she said. Like it was in a handbook. I kept my stance. I won't fight on your tile, but understand there's family and there's furniture. Only one will remember you at the end. Somewhere in the other room, a timer chimed. Dinner still on schedule. While my wedding album soaked in filthy water back home, I asked for a towel and a glass of water. Milas hesitated, then turned the cabinet door. Luther brought the glass, careful not to meet my eyes. He muttered something about the guest room missing a bed frame. I answered low but firm. I raised you on a pull-out couch and a space heater when the boiler died in '98. We managed, she countered. Her voice clipped. Tonight isn't good. We'll cover a room nearby. The we pressed heavier than her words. I folded the towel neatly, the manners I taught him being used against me. Outside. The porch light clicked brighter, reminding me even the house had rules about who belonged. Finally, Luther said it straight. Mom, it's just not a good night. We need privacy. His voice carried finality, like a gavel. Malis added her own velvet layer. Will Venmo or cash, whatever's easiest. I answered with both names. Luther Rykoff and Sassam, I hear you. And Milas Corvin, I hear you too. I slipped the paper towel under my tote myself, lifted it without complaint. I rinsed the glass in the sink. No clatter, no scene. At the threshold again, I spoke once more, quiet and sharp. I'll remember this night exactly. The air outside bit colder than the rain. The mat held my footprints like stains. From within, I heard the faint hiss of another spray. The door leaned toward me as though the house itself was making its choice. Luther's hand brushed his wallet, fingers hovering, then his voice. Careful as if practiced. Maybe a motel for a night. I adjusted the tote strap, locked my eyes on his, and let silence carry the truth. Luther pressed a soft, wrinkled bill into my hand, his fingers quick, like he was passing change at a drive-thru. "This should cover a night," he murmured, not quite meeting my eyes. I looked at that 50, then back at him. "Luther Rykoff. I taught you better than this," I said, each syllable clipped and steady. He glanced over my shoulder toward the cul-de-sac, the blue ring of the camera shining like a witness to our little trial. "We'll check on you tomorrow, Ma," he added, tone flat as a receipt. Behind him, Miley stood with arms folded, posture smooth as glass. "It's late," she said. "Please drive safe." Her words were polished, but there wasn't any flesh on them. I folded the bill once, slid it into my pocket, and replied with a calm edge. "One night on your couch would have been mercy. This is policy." My tote strap dug into my shoulder as the door stayed narrow, never wider. I walked down the steps slowly, back straight, carrying the weight of wet shoes and history. The welcome mat still held my prints, stamped proof that the night happened whether they wanted it or not. A sweet linen spray drifted faintly out, masking reality instead of meeting it. Luther's voice floated after me. "Text me." He said it like a clerk says, "Next in line." I turned once, gave him a line he could hold on to. "I won't call again tonight." I checked the sealed envelope tucked in my jacket pocket, a reflex as natural as breathing, then stepped beyond the glow of their porch light. The door closed. A soft click that sounded like the house itself making a choice. The nearest motel looked tired before I even parked. The lobby was crowded with damp coats and plastic bags stuffed with lives on pause. A TV bolted to the wall played news of basements gone under, captions crawling fast with no answers. The clerk shook her head, sympathy in her eyes but no keys to give. "We're full, ma'am. Storm nights do that." I asked about a senior rate tomorrow, and she shrugged kindly. "Try again at 7 a.m. No vacancies tonight." I sat in a plastic chair, dialed 311 again. The same hold music, the same recorded list of shelters, the same phrase. "Try again later." Later, I thought, is where the hurt hides. I tried the ATM in the corner. The fee mocked Luther's 50, so I canceled. A janitor pushed a mop across the tile, his nod quiet as if to say, "I know nights like this." He pointed with his chin toward the supermarket lot down the road. "Security won't bother you there." I bought a black coffee at the gas station next door. The cashier slipped the cup across the counter. "Stay warm out there, baby." That stranger's blessing held more weight than my own son's money. At 1 a.m, I parked beneath a street lamp in that lot. The hood ticked as it cooled. I folded a towel into a makeshift pillow, laid Harold's church fan wrapped in its cloth on the seat beside me. The air smelled of rain and old vinyl. The check engine light stayed mercifully dark. I texted one line. "I'm safe for the night." No address, no hint. Some things stay mine. A security guard tapped on the glass once. "You good, ma'am?" he asked. I cracked the window. "Just till morning," he nodded, voice gentle. "You're fine here." My phone glowed at 24%. I plugged it into the charger, watched the battery crawl up as if hope could be measured in bars. I pulled on a thin sweater, rubbed warmth into my hands, and let the quiet settle beside me. I opened my notepad and wrote tomorrow's list in block letters. Insurance agent, FEMA claim, plumber, storage unit, pharmacy refill. At the bottom, I added one more, bank call, and drew 2 hard lines under it. My fingers brushed the sealed envelope in my jacket, then left it be. Not tonight. Instead, I whispered the prayer that had walked with me through decades. "Lord, order my steps, not rescue, but precision." I made a vow to myself right there. No pleading calls to Luther, only information. Boundaries that actually mean something. I set the alarm for dawn, leaned back, and kept my eyes on the halo of the light pole. The lot was still but for the wind rattling stray carts. A plastic bag skated across the asphalt like a tired ghost. I breathed slow. Hunger could wait. Self-respect could not. Their words, privacy, boundaries, played once more in my head. then died. I replaced them with my own. Plan, proof, power. I reached for my phone, tucked the envelope back into place, and let the night hold its breath with me. I leaned my seat back and clicked on the dome light. The drizzle outside softened the glass, but inside my car, the world narrowed to what I held in my hands. I pulled the sealed envelope from the inside pocket I had guarded all night. That envelope had lived in my kitchen for months, taped behind the honey jar and spices, because I never hide things where fear can sniff them out. The paper felt heavy, though it was only a single slip inside. I opened it carefully, the way I used to peel apart church programs or hospital forms, never tearing, always patient, and there it was. The ticket, the numbers shown under the dome light. I read them twice. Lips closed, the same way I used to check Luther's homework. I opened the photo on my phone, zoomed in on the barcode, lined every digit. My voice came steady. If it's real, we'll do this right. If it isn't, we'll sleep and rise anyway. I pressed the phone speaker and dialed the claimant line. The storm had the menu dragging, tired with too many calls. But finally, a voice answered. Lottery claims support. After-hours verification. No name offered. And I didn't ask. I kept my words even. This is Odessa Klein. I have a ticket that appears to match last night's Powerball. I want to confirm process, not identity. They asked for digits. I gave only the last 4, firm in my boundary. You'll see I'm cautious, I told them. I hope you are too. The dispatcher asked if I was safe. I said, I'm in my car, lights on, safe enough. The city's had a night, and I'm not walking into any building. They mentioned closures at the claims center, but spoke of a mobile protocol for emergencies. We agreed to continue. The questions came like a dance. They wanted a timestamp photo with a paper. I countered with a live video shot. Ticket, my license corner, and a handwritten code. I wrote the digits on a sticky note, placed it by the ticket, turned my dashboard into a small notary desk. They asked for address details. I showed only city and zip end. You'll get the rest when I'm inside your doors, I said. Chain of custody came next. They explained sealed pouches and officer IDs. I pressed back, then state names and badge numbers when you arrive. They suggested a police substation, but closures blocked that road. So we settled on a well-lit lot with patrols passing every 20 minutes. Practical. Safe. I proposed the cul-de-sac near Luther Street, out loud. I said it was for lighting and clear cameras, inside. I knew it was something more. The ground that pushed me away would see me verified. That symmetry meant something, even if I didn't say it. The dispatcher listed 2 officers, gave their names and numbers, and I wrote them down neat in my spiral notebook. I asked if press would be tipped off. No, they answered. Not at this stage. I let the air rest a moment, then said, Good. No one tells my story but me. We agreed to 35 minutes. I ended with clear words. I'll be under the 3rd lamp from the corner, yellow tote in the back. If you see me wave, approach. The rest was small preparation. I cleared the passenger seat, slipped the ticket in a plastic sleeve, the sticky note set beside it. My license corner ready, my notepad open to today's date. I propped the phone on a dash tripod, recording steady. I smoothed my sweater, combed my hair in the visor mirror, not for vanity, but for record. My mother always said, "Look like yourself when folks take notes." I texted one line. Not to Luther, not to Milas, but to the neighbor who once returned a casserole dish. I'm okay for the night. Then I rehearsed 2 phrases under my breath. Please state your names and badge numbers, and I will read, you will not touch. The last of my coffee was cold, but honest, and I sipped it down anyway. Headlights swept the far side of the lot. A sedan slowed, parked 2 lamps away. My phone buzzed. Team on site, awaiting your signal. I drew in 1 deep breath, let it out slow, and lifted my hand, pausing at shoulder height. Then I raised it higher into the light, steady as a woman who knows she's no one's fool. The night, damp and watchful, leaned forward with me. The sedan rolled slow under the 3rd lamp, engine humming low. 2 men stepped out, palms visible. jackets plain, no logos. The taller one spoke with crisp authority. I'm Harlan Vescovi. Lottery claims, badge number 7426. His partner followed. Reading theirs, I repeated both numbers into my dash camera, careful that the lens caught their faces and hands. Chain of custody starts with light and names, I said. Harlan's tone stayed neutral. No press has been notified. We're here to confirm process and secure the ticket. I answered steady. You won't touch it until I've read and filmed. You'll acknowledge the code on camera. Both nodded. Agreement plain. My shoulders dropped, breath measured, like balancing a casserole dish on a road full of potholes. I angled the phone toward the passenger seat. The ticket rested in a clear sleeve, sticky note with code beside it. My license corner showing nothing more, nothing less. For the record, I said, date, time, location described verbally only. My full address will not be shown. Harlan read the code aloud. I panned slow to the ticket numbers, then the time-stamped photo on my phone. I spoke each number twice, clear and even, leaving space for the camera to catch it. His partner, gloved, didn't reach. Instead, they cross-checked digits on a tablet, green light blinking soft, no theatrics, only process. The device chimed, and the partner nodded toward Harlan, who hadn't moved a muscle. 2 houses down, a porch light flared, curtains shifted. A man in a hoodie stepped outside, phone raised already. Tires hissed as a rideshare car slowed, lingered, then moved on. I kept my voice level for the record. Verification continues, incidental witnesses not invited. Harlan caught the change in the air, but didn't falter. Ma'am, we can proceed to provisional confirmation. Inside, symmetry pulled at me. This street had shut its doors. Now this street would hear the truth. I refused to glance at Luther's house. My hands held steady. Calm wasn't softness. It was callous earned from years of work. Harlan outlined the next step aloud. Tilt the ticket toward the scanner. The tablet will read from distance. No contact until you consent. I lifted the sleeve. A red line swept across, then a green chime rang louder this time. His partner read the reference code, the jackpot date, and Harlan's voice followed with 5 words that cracked the silence. Ma'am, you are the winner. I didn't gasp, didn't flinch. I nodded once. Gratitude without debt. He added, this is verification, not final claim. We'll proceed with sealed custody and receipt. I said for the record. Understood. I'll accompany you. My possession ends when the seal is signed. More porch lights came alive. The hoodie whispered to someone. That's the lottery team. Their phone tilted toward me. I said firmly, please avoid recording my license plate. The phone lowered an inch. Good enough. The partner slid the ticket into the evidence pouch. I pressed my initials along the edge, turning ownership into custody. A door creaked open nearby. Luther stepped out. Sweatshirt loose, ankles bare on wet pavement. A moment later, Miles appeared, hair tied back, eyes sharp even at 3 a.m. Harlan glanced my way. We can relocate if you prefer. I shook my head. No, we finish here. Luther moved 2 steps closer, caught between privacy and truth. The seal clicked shut. The partner lifted it from my camera. I panned between the pouch and Harlan's face. Names, numbers, logged. Footsteps came behind me. Light but certain. A whiff of perfume reached before the woman herself. I squared my shoulders and turned toward the house that had shut me out. Harlan said softly, Ma'am? I lifted a hand. I know. The seal had barely clicked shut when Melis stepped forward, perfume hitting first, arms wide like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. We're just so proud of you, Miss Klein, she declared, voice carrying to the porches where neighbors leaned in. Not Mama, not even Odessa, my surname, cold and deliberate, the way strangers sign cards. Her citrus scent was sharp, not comforting, and I knew this wasn't affection, it was staging. I let the embrace brush me for a breath, then stepped back with posture unbent, chin level, inside my head. The thought was plain. An embrace isn't always love. Sometimes it's a trap. Whispers stirred along the cul-de-sac. Neighbors sensing theater rather than reunion. Luther tried to close the gap. Sweatshirt sleeves damp from the mist, voice pitched low. "Ma, let's just talk inside. This doesn't have to be public." His eyes darted from me to the pouch in Harlan's hands, then back to Malus, reading the stage directions of a play that wasn't his to direct. I answered evenly. Inside was denied when it was shelter. Now it's just walls. Harlan shifted closer, stance protective, a silent promise that protocol would not bend to pressure. Luther pressed again. "We're family. You don't want neighbors watching this, do you?" I knew the trick. Pull it back inside, manage the optics, pretend control lived in drywall, but the truth deserved streetlight. Milas's hand slipped into her sweater pocket and came out with a neat folder, slim papers tucked inside. She angled it toward Harlan, bypassing me as though authority had transferred silently in the night. "We've been managing some of her finances already," she said smoothly. "It'll be smoother if the ticket goes through our household first." Her eyes flicked at me, but her words were aimed at the official. Harlan's reply was firm. "Verification recognizes only the claimant whose ID matches this ticket." I added my own clear note, voice carrying. "And that ID is mine, Odessa Klein. No proxy, no household." Milas's smile didn't break. Of course. We just want to help with logistics. It's complicated for her alone at this age." Neighbors' murmurs thickened, the attempt obvious to anyone with ears. I stood tall, fury restrained but visible in the steadiness of my breath. I pulled out my notepad, the one where I had written badge numbers, seal ID, protocol steps in neat ink. I held it high enough for the porch lights to catch. "Age is not incompetence," I said, words sharp but not shouted. "Age is record, and mine speaks for itself." Harlan nodded to my notes, confirming aloud. "Process is intact. No third-party claim permitted." Luther's jaw flexed, his whisper tight. "Ma, don't make this harder than it has to be." I turned toward him fully. "You closed your door when I asked for a couch. This one opens because I held the key." The sentence carried across the cul-de-sac, and I heard the murmur shift, neighbors recognizing what dignity looked like when tested in public. Still smiling, Milas reached a polished hand to rest lightly on my arm. "We'll figure out the best way forward, for all of us." I slid my arm back slowly, not with violence, just deliberate space. "The best way forward is honesty," I answered. "Tonight showed us who carries it." Harlan sealed his briefcase with the evidence pouch, the click echoing like punctuation. Neighbors drifted indoors, whispers trailing behind them. I stepped back under the lamp, its light centering me. Silence stronger than any retort. Behind me, Luther's voice cracked once. "Ma, wait, please." I didn't turn. The tote strap rested steady on my shoulder, my car waiting where I had left it, engine still warm with resolve. Porch lights glowed stubbornly against the early gray, curtains barely hiding the faces behind them. The cul-de-sac held its breath, the air sharp enough to see. The lottery car blinked hazard lights once, then eased away, Harlan giving me a nod before disappearing down the block. Chain of custody was over, but the story wasn't finished. Luther stood with arms folded tight across his chest, his sweatshirt damp, his stance meant to look solid but reading as defensive. Milas hovered just half a step in front of him, chin high, rehearsed. I moved one step toward my car and stopped, not retreating, choosing. A siren thinned in the distance, a dog barked twice, and the blink of a porch camera caught my eye. Proof tonight wasn't just paper, it was people. I let my phone keep recording, whispering, "I won't argue. Let the night tell the truth." A screen door creaked. Out came Ione Rathburn, wrapped in a quilted coat, slippers on, calm as Sunday morning choir. She held a steaming mug in one hand, her phone in the other, not hiding either. She cleared her throat and raised her voice. "Folks, I saw this woman, Odessa Klein, take in 3 of us last week when the alley flooded. She boiled water on a camp stove and handed out blankets." I stayed still. Testimony doesn't need applause. It needs air. She turned, her chin angling toward Luther, though she didn't point. We knocked here first. Lights were on. The doorbell cam lit up. No answer. Her words cut cleaner than shouting. Then she added, boundaries are fine, but mercy is a boundary too. One you keep open so people don't drown. A voice from a hoodie muttered. She gave me a flashlight. Another neighbor chimed in. Checked on Mrs. Alvarez. Translated for FEMA. The street became a chorus. Truth collected in voices. Ione faced me. Nodded once. Some folks remember who shows up. I do. Then she turned to Luther and Malis. This street does, too. I breathed steady, whispering to my mic. Let the witnesses carry it. Silence stretched. Heavy as verdict. From across the way, another neighbor called. I've got doorbell footage of her knocking the night it flooded. Time stamped. More nods, murmurs about next-door posts. No names, just facts. Someone suggested. Names matter when facts were ignored. Another replied, I let it roll. Rivers don't need steering once they find downhill. Luther tried a thin smile. We were asleep, but one voice came sharp. You answered me at 10:30. His shoulders sank. Behind me. Harlan gave one last professional nod from the driver's seat before pulling away. A second kind of confirmation had landed. The community had seen. Then came the fracture. Mila stepped half a pace aside, voice pitched low but angled for every ear. I thought you said she was broke. Gasps cut through the cool air. Luther flinched, scanning for a way to patch it. I didn't know. She didn't tell me. My face stayed calm. His excuses were no longer my burden. Milas's smile tightened. You said shelter and privacy. You didn't say lottery verification would park at our curb. She pulled her phone, tapped for a ride share like clockwork. As the car pulled close, she told Luther, optics matter. To me, she tossed. Congratulations, Miss Klein. Words as hollow as business cards dropped in puddles, then the taillights painted the asphalt red, smearing what was left of their union. Luther tried again, softer now. Ma, I messed this up. Can we start over? The porch cams blinked, recording every syllable. I answered clear. An apology uses the period, not the word, but try again. He swallowed, silence filling the crack between us. I'm sorry I closed the door. That was it. Enough to mark the moment, not enough to fix the past. I nodded once. That sentence is the only one that opens anything. My palm stayed closed. No hug to erase too quickly. He started to speak of money, but I cut in. No conversations about that tonight. Respect first. Logistics later. The street eased back to ordinary rhythms. Sprinklers sputtering. A bus brake sighing. I unlocked my car, set the tote in the back, fingers on the old key I'd carried for years. To Luther, I said. Steady and plain. I'll leave you with something. Just one thing that fits what we are now. Porch lights began to click off, block by block, as though the neighborhood had graded its papers and turned them in. I looked at his palm, already waiting for a small, cold wait. Not forgiveness, definition. I stood in front of Luther with my palm open, metal cold against my skin. An old car key, the one from our first winter after Harold died, lay there. I placed it into his hand, closing his fingers one by one, deliberate and steady. Like teaching him all over again how to hold something without losing it. This one still belongs to both of us. The lesson, not the car. It's all the access you get tonight. His lips parted, ready to turn it toward money. But I shook my head before he spoke. Respect first. Logistics later. Porch cameras blinked red. They would remember that line even if he tried to forget. I lifted my chin toward the house behind him without shifting my eyes. You closed a door. I learned which one's open for me. Then I stepped back into the circle of lamplight, giving the neighborhood its frame. Action, not argument. My terms, I continued, voice clear enough for the air to carry, but not a shout. We won't discuss cash, gifts, or favors until you and I can talk alone, without Miss Corvin. I laid them out. 3 conditions: a full apology with no but, an act of service for someone who can't repay him, and a conversation where his ears do more work than his tongue. I'm setting up a trust with a professional. Beneficiaries will match character, not pressure. You're not excluded from my life. You're not entitled to it either. My tone landed like chalk on a blackboard, firm, final. Tonight ends clean. No retaliation, no scene, no rumor from me. The neighborhood will carry what it saw. Luther nodded, eyes wet in the chill. But I let the silence stand in for the hug he wanted. Silence can be a boundary too. My phone buzzed. A text from Harlan. Sunrise appointment at the State Claim Center. I tapped back a thumbs up and typed, "Proceed per protocol." Across the street, Ione Rathburn raised her mug, tapping it twice on the rail. I mouthed, "Thank you." She didn't need more. In my car, I checked once more that the sealed pouch was with the lottery team. My footage backed it up. I spoke into a quick voice memo. Freeze credit, call insurer, secure a storage unit, find a temporary rental in Queens. In the corner of my vision, Luther lingered but didn't step closer. He was learning. Maybe for the first time, where the edge of reach was. I put my tote in the trunk, closed it with a solid thunk that sounded like paperwork filing itself. 2 cars turned the corner, neighbors with phones lifted, flashlights cutting across the wet asphalt. I raised my voice just enough. Keep license plates out of your frame. You'll get a better story if you aim for the truth. I walked into the brightest pool of light on purpose, not hiding, not posing. Harlan's sedan slowed, checked, then rolled on. A neighbor called softly. "Congratulations, ma'am," I answered. "Thank you." Tonight was about more than numbers. The flashlights caught the glint of the key still in Luther's hand. For once, the camera showed what a boundary looked like. I outlined my morning silently. Lawyer for the trust, CPA call, new bank accounts with dual controls, and a pledge to Ione's flood repair fund. Harold's name would headline the grant. The Harold Klein Relief Fund. Not mine. Not Luther's. I'd book a month-to-month rental in Queens, close enough to rebuild, far enough for peace. Before sunrise, I'd leave Luther one message. Breakfast next week in a public place. If you show, you listen. If you don't, that's a decision too. First light pulled soft color into the street. I checked my mirrors. 1 sun, 1 key, 1 block of witnesses. Enough. Watch what I build, I said, turning the ignition. The engine answered, steady as my resolve.